We're kicking things off today in Dubai, home to the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa. You've just enjoyed the view from the observation deck on the 148th floor, about 555 metres up the 829.8 metre building. And quite sensibly, you decide that taking over 2,000 steps to the ground floor is too much effort. So you hop into one of the elevators and start making your way down. Suddenly, you're hurtling towards the ground. Things don't look good. What do you do? Your life starts flashing before your eyes when you realise, wait a minute, you'll just jump a split second before the elevator hits the ground, taking yourself out of the equation during the moment of impact, and you'll be okay.
But is this actually possible? And what other options do you have? I'm Stu, this is Debunked, and we're here to sort the truths from the myths and the facts from the misconceptions.
Most of us won't have the opportunity to journey up the world's tallest building, but more and more of us are living in high-rise apartments. Now, I'm willing to bet I'm not the only one to have stepped through those sliding doors and thought it could turn into a giant metal coffin. After all, the only thing separating you from a meeting with the Grim Reaper are a few cables. If they snap, then surviving the fall seems pretty unlikely, unless you can time that last-second jump just right. It seems to make sense. Just before the elevator hits the ground, you jump and you'll be suspended in mid-air, taking your body out of the equation at the moment of impact. Then when you land, it'll be as soft as if you were jumping normally.
Time to bust out some physics and a few hypothetical situations to see whether this is actually true or not.
So, if you're riding that elevator in a skyscraper, it means it must be at least 100 meters high, as that's the widely accepted definition for a skyscraper. Our fictional Debunked Towers is 150 meters. So, you're getting the elevator down from the roof 150 meters up, when all the cables snap and the brakes fail. Now, most other articles you'll come across will assume the elevator and its occupant are now in freefall. This is incorrect, unless you're in a vacuum, and then the lack of air may be your bigger concern than the falling elevator. Plus, if you were in freefall, you would feel weightless and end up jumping like you were on a spacewalk. Whereas in fact, the effect air resistance would have on the elevator carriage will increase as it plummets faster towards its doom, and it would be too great to completely disregard it. So we consulted a physics boffin from the University of Cambridge to help us out. What we are going to assume in our calculations is that the elevator carriage is a perfect rectangular box. It falls straight down, meaning it isn't slowed by brakes or scraping along the edge of the shaft, and that all factors that affect air resistance, other than its speed, stay constant. These are things like air density and the airflow patterns around our elevator. Now that our conditions are established, we can get on with the fun stuff and see how fast you are going to be travelling before you hit the bottom. Well, gravity will be exerting an accelerating force of 9.81 newtons per kilogram, which converts to an acceleration of 9.81 meters per second every second. When you take into account the air resistance the carriage will experience as it hurtles down, it means that after just 5 seconds, the elevator will already be travelling at 37.5 meters per second, which is a whopping 83.9 miles per hour. Now you're probably starting to panic. In fact, we've calculated the elevator will reach terminal velocity at just over 49 meters per second. But unfortunately, you won't reach that, because just 1.1 seconds later, you'll smash into the ground at 41.3 meters per second or 92.4 miles per hour. The entire 150 meter fall will have lasted just 6.1 seconds.
So you've got just over 6 seconds to realise what's going on and launch yourself from the elevator floor before it crashes into the bottom of the elevator shaft.
Now, the common misconception is thinking that you would change direction when you jump. Of course you would, I hear you cry. You're falling down and then you're jumping up. I mean, it seems logical to think it would work that way, because if you were stood in a stationary elevator and jumped, you would go up and the elevator would stay where it was. But when you're plummeting towards the ground inside the elevator, both you and the elevator are falling downwards at high speed. So all you would be doing when you jump is leaving the elevator floor and reducing your body's falling speed to hopefully a less lethal rate.
But what could you hope to reduce your falling speed to?
Using data from the SMU Locomotor Performance Laboratory, an athlete can jump with a vertical velocity of 2.45 meters per second. So let's say your impending doom makes you bring your A game, and you manage to propel yourself with the power of an athlete. If we assume when a person bends their legs to jump, the process of pushing themselves off the ground takes 0.4 seconds, and the average mass of the human is taken to be 75 kilograms, then using Newton's second law, we can calculate that the average force you exert on the ground is about 460 newtons, making your athletic jump achievable. But jumping whilst falling changes everything. When the floor you are standing on is static, it will react to any force you apply to it, by applying an equal and opposite force back on you. This is a consequence of Newton's third law. To put this into context, imagine you are standing in a room. Your weight pushes your feet downwards onto the floor. So the floor pushes back upwards to your feet by the same amount. These two forces cancel each other out and you remain stationary. You then use your muscles to push down on the floor more, using the 460 newtons we calculated earlier. And so in turn, the floor pushes back up on you more, and so lifts you into the air. The problem is, in a falling elevator, only 70% of your body weight is being used to keep your feet on the floor. The other 30% is being used to accelerate you earthwards. This means the amount of force the ground pushes back up on you will also be less, as it only needs to counter your weight. At this point, you remain stationary. To put this into context, if you were standing on a set of scales, you would seem to be 30% lighter, as your feet aren't pushing down towards the ground as hard. So then, when you try to jump, you will be applying the same extra force from your muscles as before, the 460 newtons, plus what is now only 70% of your weight. So now you have less upwards force for your jump, meaning it will be slower and you won't jump as high. In a room, you might be able to jump to athletic speeds of 2.45 meters per second, but now, in an elevator where the cables have snapped and it's accelerating downwards, your jump will only get you to about 1.3 meters per second. So, with all this taken into account, will your newfound athleticism help you as you time your jump to perfection? No. With your now pathetic jumping speed of 1.3 meters per second, and with the elevator impacting with the ground at a staggering 41.3 meters per second, the math is simple. You will be travelling at the same velocity as the elevator, minus your jumping velocity, which means you'll smash into the bottom of the shaft at 40 meters per second. That's a pretty fatal 89.5 miles per hour. Now, if jumping won't help you, what's the best thing you can do? You might think bending your knees to absorb some of the impact may help, but according to Dr. Elliot H. Frank, a research engineer at MIT,
the impact of the elevator at the bottom of the shaft would subject you to extreme gravitational acceleration, and at high g-forces your legs would simply not be able to support the weight of your body.
In fact, according to our calculations, the force of the impact would be around 6 million newtons. But if you do bend your knees by around 50 centimeters, then you would decrease this force to about 120,000 newtons. If you consider your tibia bones in your legs will break at 108,000 newtons of vertical force, then your legs will be crushed.
However, this could potentially absorb enough of the impact to preserve your more vital organs, but you're just as likely to be dead.
There are other schools of thought that suggest placing your luggage on the floor to help soften the impact, but that's not much use unless you're on your way to the airport with 2 weeks' worth of suitcases. Dr. Frank suggests laying on the floor as flat as you can.
This will distribute the force of impact over the greatest area of your body so that no particular part of your body is subjected to the weight of any other part of your body.
But to be honest, you're unlikely to ever be in this situation, as there are numerous safety features built into all modern elevators. Each individual cable holding the elevator carriage can support the elevator's weight on its own, And if a freak accident caused all the cables to snap, there are automatic braking systems that are backed up by electromagnetic brakes. And if everything fails, there's a shock absorber system at the bottom of the shaft that is designed to save passengers' lives by absorbing the impact. In fact, against popular belief, although around 18 billion passenger trips are made every year in elevators, they are actually safer than taking the stairs or an escalator, with elevators causing only 27 deaths per year. This means the odds of an elevator trip causing your demise is a minuscule 0.000000015%. That's pretty good odds. If you feel our video tickled your intellectual taste buds and you're hungry for more, then Brilliant can satisfy your appetite. It's a website and app that aims to develop your problem-solving skills and scientific thinking. It's designed to make learning easier, helping you understand the fundamentals of math and science concepts by explaining how they translate to the modern world around you. There's a quiz about momentum that will allow you to calculate the non-destructive fall, which is the maximum height you can jump from without breaking any bones. So why not check it out? If you visit brilliant.org/debunked or click the link in the description, you can sign up for free and continue to learn about physics of the everyday, which is our personal favourite. Plus, as a bonus to Debunked viewers, if you are one of the first 200 people to sign up, you will get 20% off the annual subscription. We're proud to have them as a sponsor, and we really hope you like them too. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.